Clyden standing up and clapping, "Hooray! Hooray for you! Hooray!" Hi guys, Future64 here, and today we're talking about the Orville New Horizons, episode 10, titled Future Unknown. A very apt title for this episode, as the future of the Orville is unknown, because at this point there is no renewal announcement. Some of us hoped that we would get a renewal announcement during San Diego Comic-Con. That did not happen, but there was an announcement that it's moving over to Disney Plus, and with it moving to Disney Plus, there are more subscribers on Disney Plus than there are on Hulu, so it has that potential of reaching a whole new audience, a bigger audience. And I think the whole idea of them moving it to Disney Plus is to see just how big of an audience the show can get. But we'll get more into that later, as well as in future Orville videos. But for right now, I want to focus on reviewing the final episode of the season, Future Unknown. For those new here, the way that I do my reviews is I walk through the episode. It's kind of like a breakdown. I tackle some specific plot points and give my review as we're walking through the episode, and then give a recap review at the end. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into this review. So the episode opens up with Isaac walking through the Orville with some classic music playing. Apparently the song is Bachelor in Paradise from the movie Bachelor in Paradise. And this is kind of the thing that you would really only find in the Orville. It really just showcases the unique approach the Orville has. Like, it's really started to find its own voice here in the third season. I know some people have said that they liked some of the earlier seasons. Everybody's got their different preferences. I think the third season is really the show hitting its stride and standing on its own and becoming its own science fiction show. So the crew goes down to a planet to take part in a renewal ceremony between Bortus and Clyden, where Clyden runs off in the forest and Bortus has to go chase him down. And the whole idea of a renewal ceremony is an interesting parallel with the season itself, because all of us are sitting here waiting for the renewal of season 4. Of course, Bortus catches Clyden, and the crew kind of watches, as the renewal ceremony is complete. They put their heads together, and it's just an uncomfortable amount of time, and the other crew just is like, is that it? Is it? Okay, I don't really understand what's going on here. And Malloy finally starts clapping, and then everyone else claps, and they don't, Bortus and Clyden don't move. Then we get a callback and a mention, and is actually an important part of this episode, a reference back to a season 1 episode, probably my favorite episode from season 1, called Majority Rule. It was episode 7 of season 1, and basically the whole idea of that episode was there was a planet that was ruled by an absolute democracy, and all of it was funneled through a feed. It was essentially a society functioning based on the mob-like whims of a Twitter-like system. This episode was released in 2017. It was probably written in 2016. And since 2016, we've seen the rise of the power of dumb things like Twitter and the feed and stuff like this, and how they are impacting real world. So definitely still valid, probably more so valid today than it was when that season 1 episode was released. And that planet was called Sargus 4. Admiral Halsey orders the Orville to go to the planet to help the new survey team that they sent down to replace the previous survey team, because it didn't end well for them in season 1. And I'm really surprised that they're sending the Orville back to the planet based on what happened with Lamar last time, although Admiral Halsey directly mentions, hey, you may not want to send Commander Lamar this time down to the planet because he almost got killed down there last time. After the renewal ceremony, Isaac does some research and decides that he's going to propose to Claire. And honestly, this is a big part of the episode. This is, I would say, Claire and Isaac. This is definitely the meat of the episode for sure. Claire doesn't say yes right away, and she's like, well, what about the passage of time? That's obviously going to affect, because I'm going to grow old and die, and you're just going to keep living on. There's not going to be, I don't really know how that's going to work out. And Isaac says, given the abstract choice between your continued existence or your death, the former is preferable. Very Isaac-like. I like Isaac. Isaac is one of my favorite characters on the Orville. Played excellently by Mark Jackson.
Are we bonding?
And Isaac even says, I will continue to look after your offspring, including all of your descendants. So That's kind of a crazy thing to think about. It's like you marry somebody who basically live forever, so you're gonna look over all their offspring for eternity, essentially, until, I don't know, you get blown up or something. So as they approach Sargus 4, they pick up a signal from the planet, and it's Lucilla, who was the girl who helped them back in that season 1 episode, and she wants to be picked up. She wants to leave the planet. And since she already saw the ship, she's already was up in on the Orville in that season 1 episode. They decide, okay, well, it's not going to be any we can pick her up and see what she has to say. And so Lucella's up on the ship, and she's talking to Mercer and Grayson, and she says, I'm not going to go back. I don't really care. I've lost 2 friends this year because they said or did something that the feed didn't like. Everyone is scared and paranoid because no one trusts each other, and the only time anyone feels like they're part of something bigger than themselves is when they are part of a mass downvote. They only come together to target somebody. The real world parallels in this statement are completely obvious. I don't need to point them out. And Ed obviously says, hey, if you stay on the ship, you can never go back to your planet. She's like, I don't care. I don't ever have any intentions of going back. So she chooses to stay. And Commander Grayson's going to be her guide to the ship and the Union. And I like this idea of bringing her on in this episode in particular, because what we're seeing is the Orville through new eyes with this character being brought on board. It's a good side plot that kind of runs congruent with the Claire and Isaac plot, as well as giving some of the other characters some moment. When Malloy walks into engineering and tells Lamar that the captain wants him to go down to Sargus 4, Lamar's face is priceless, and he just says, you know what, I haven't danced since that planet. Sargus 4 stopped the music. That was the day the music died for Lamar. So Claire talks with her kids, and they're all good with her marrying Isaac. So Lamar gives Isaac some advice and says that maybe you shouldn't marry Claire because you haven't played the field yet. And obviously that's probably not going to go over that well, because Isaac's gonna obviously take that literal. So he goes to Commander Grayson and asks her out, and then she's like, what? No, you shouldn't do that. And no, let's pretend like this didn't happen. So Isaac walks off. And as I said, with Lucelle on the ship, they use this time to examine some basic questions about the Union and things like that, like life without money, because the matter synthesizers solved all material needs. They talk about reputation as currency, and just because you sit around doing nothing doesn't mean you should sit around doing nothing, because that's boring. And that's true. Sitting around doing nothing is boring. So people have jobs, and their reputation matters. Kelly tells Claire that Isaac asked her out, and she explains to Isaac, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. And Isaac realized he made a mistake by listening to Lamar. And when Claire goes down to engineering, just chews out Lamar. It's one of the best scenes in the episode for sure. So Grayson takes Lucilla to the simulator, and we get this really awesome scene of an asteroid in the simulator. It's a really cool shot. Apparently there's a whole alien race called the Camelids. They're members of the Union, and they basically live underneath an ice sheet around an asteroid. It's very very interesting. This kind of stuff I like. I like seeing, new aliens and the creativity of people to come up with different types of alien species and environments. And even though it's just a simulator, I thought it was really cool. And it's really just a scene to open up Lucilla's eyes to some of the stuff that's actually out there. Isaac asks Malloy to be the best man, but Bortus butts in and takes the job from just basically strong arms. And Malloy's just in shock. He's like, wait a minute, what just happened? How Bortus is the best man? This is going to be a train wreck. So Isaac decides to invite the Kalon primary to attend the wedding, because you're supposed to invite friends and family. So not only does he invite the Kalon primary, he invites all of the Kalon. So the Kalon primary takes the entire fleet to go meet up with the Orville. Really, this episode is about Isaac making poor decisions and misreading the way that things are supposed to function. That's the difference between intelligence and wisdom, my friends. So Lucella is guilty for leaving her planet after seeing all of the awesome things in the Orville, the way the Union functions. She's guilty for leaving her planet. She feels like she's abandoning her people, and that she just lucked out by meeting the Orville crew. And just found a way out of the society, and she just feels like she kind of cheated. She thinks that if her people had the technology that the Orville does, they'd be better people. And Grayson points out that it's actually the other way around, and that you get this technology by becoming better people by working together, which obviously comes up again in this episode. But really, here's the most important thing in the episode. Malloy finally gets the egg salad sandwich from episode 6. That's right, that egg salad sandwich he sent a couple months in the future, it arrives, and he eats it, and he's happy. And I will say, one of the disappointing things I had about this episode was I really thought this episode was actually going to tie in some things from episode 6, because there were multiple paradoxes that were created in episode 6. And I thought with Malloy and his family, who may or may not exist somewhere out there, it's a matter of debate. And I thought they were going to address that, and they didn't address it at all. I mean, the egg salad sandwich showed up, so I mean, they closed that loophole, I guess. But yeah, I would say that one of the criticisms I have about this episode is they really don't address that. It doesn't come into play at all, and I thought that it was going to. So Lascelles is really stuck on bringing this technology back to her planet, trying to figure out a way to do it. And it's even said, technology and societal ethics have to progress hand in hand. I think that it could easily be argued in current society that our technology has progressed ahead of our ethics, I think. So Bortus ends up throwing a lifeless bachelor party. It's an amazing train wreck. It's exactly what you thought Bortus is the best man for Isaac bachelor party would be. I'm surprised. I'd give those guys props for even sitting around in that party. I mean, that definitely looks like the worst party ever. But it does provide arguably the funniest part of the season, which is Bortus dressed as Elvis.
What kind of way is that to talk to a baby?
What do you mean?
And it wasn't just Bortus dressed as Elvis, because that'd be funny in and of itself. No, what really added to this was Clyden standing up and clapping, "Hooray! Hooray for you! Hooray!" Hooray for you! Hooray!
What do you mean?
God, I love that scene. I really want to, that should be a GIF. If that has not been made into a GIF, hooray for you, that should be made into a GIF if it hasn't already. But who am I kidding? It's the internet. Of course it exists already. So Claire's bachelorette party involves a Kalon stripper with deployable tassels. Moving on.
Okay.
So Lysella decides she just feels too guilty. She's going to go home, and, they'd get a shuttle ready and they're going to take her. No, she was going to bring back her comm device with scans of all of the technology. Well, minus the weapons, so she gets props for that, I guess. All of the technology she was going to bring back to her planet. And obviously, Kiali and Grayson, they catch her. So Grayson takes Lysella to the simulator to show her a planet called Gindel 3, one of the first planets that the early Union encountered. And the Union gave them technology, and they destroyed their planet within a span of a few years, leaving no one left but the occasional radiated zombie that popped out while they were in the simulator. Because the Union wanted to help out the society. They saw that they were struggling, and they thought that the technology would fix their problems. And really, all it did was make their problems worse. It just gave them bigger sticks to hit each other with. And that's the whole idea of the Prime Directive from Star Trek, and why the Union doesn't interfere. That's usually the best policy. So remember how Isaac invited the Kalon primary, and he just basically invited almost the entire Kalon race? Yeah, 4,000 Kalon vessels appear right next to the Orville and surrounding it. So Isaac and Claire end up getting married, and we see the Union dress uniforms for the first time, and I think they look pretty cool. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen it. I'm fairly positive. I don't remember seeing them prior to this, and I think they look pretty cool. Really good costume design. Lysella ultimately makes the decision to stay on the ship and learn and find out where she fits in, and I think that kind of leaves up some potential for some stuff going into a season 4 if we get it, or if we don't get the season 4 renewal, we can see it in comic books or furthering stories. And I'll get more into that here shortly, but we get Alara back. That's right, Alara comes back in this episode. That was a really nice surprise. I'm so glad that they brought her back. I like Alara. I personally prefer Alara over Kiali. I don't dislike Kiali, but I think Alara had more personality to her. Regardless, Alara comes back, and I thought that was just really cool. And she shows up just in time to see Bortus's toast. And yeah, as Mercer says, it's you got here just in time to see things go off the rails. So Bortus gets up and he says like some of the most crazy things, like, Isaac, you betrayed us and caused the death of many. All kidding aside. And he basically just keeps insulting Isaac and Claire and saying, but all kidding aside. But he just says it in that deadpan Bortus voice. I just thought it was great. Claire tells Isaac to just make him stop and give the speech to Malloy, because Malloy should have been the best man all along. Let's be honest. Bortus definitely shoehorned his way in. But from a writing perspective, that was a great choice. I love that the writers decided, let's make Bortus force his way in here, and it made for some of the best scenes in this episode. It's too bad Claire didn't say something earlier, because he might have been able to save the bachelor party. But then again, we wouldn't have gotten, Clyden saying, hooray! Malloy gives his best man speech and then gets to sing a song, giving us our third Malloy song this season. And it's a great way to cap off the episode, the season. And if this turns out to be the end of the show, I can't think of a better way to end it than with a Malloy song. This episode doesn't try to top the last one. It serves as an epilogue to that episode and to the season. It gives our characters time to breathe. It possibly gives us a final send-off to the crew, but it also leaves some ideas open for season 4, and hopefully we get that renewal. But as the title of this episode suggests, the future is unknown. We don't really know what's happening yet. If this turns out to be the final episode of the show, which hopefully not, but if it does, this was a good way to cap off the show. But there's so many different possibilities open for a season 4 and more stories to be told. You had Ed and Kelly, they're holding hands at the end as Malloy singing his song. It possibly leaves the door open to exploring that relationship. Maybe that's back open. You still have Anaya, Ed's daughter, is still that whole plot line still out there. You got Talea as well. You have a new character on the ship now with Lucella, who could be a gateway for new audiences coming on, because you're seeing it from the perspective of somebody who's more of completely foreign to the Union and the Orville, and I think that's a good potential for a new character in season 4. You got Isaac and Claire now married. Obviously, that could result in some good stories. The Kaylon Alliance is growing the whole way that the universe is functioning now. We got the biomechanical ant Borg we introduced this season that we didn't see again, that we may pop up again as well. There's the Mocklins. They're still out there. Who knows what they're planning, or if maybe they want to come back into the Union, or maybe they're now mortal enemies. Who knows? There's still a lot out there to explore, but at the same time, this episode was really just a great finale that focused on its characters first and foremost. And you can tell that this episode was made with the whole idea of it potentially being the last episode. And there was just a lot of love, I feel, in this episode, more so than any of the other episodes of the Orville. So on that level, I think it worked really well. I like the pacing of this episode. I think that having the side plot with Lucella worked pretty well. I don't think it really took anything away from the existing characters. I think that a lot of the characters all got some moments to shine here in this last episode, even if they didn't have like their own side plots. They all had individual moments where they stood out. The whole idea of Lucella, I think the character is used more to explain kind of the Union and let the audience view things from a new set of eyes as it's transitioning to potentially a season 4. So it kind of works on multiple levels. It's also looking at the tug of war that societies face with ethical and technological progression. So there is a story there as well. And I like seeing the reference back to that season 1 episode, because as I said, I'm pretty sure that's my favorite episode of season 1. You may expect me to talk some more about maybe season 1 and season 2, because I haven't really talked about either of those on this channel. So that may be coming up. But yeah, I liked seeing this episode in particular come back in the final episode, because again, one of my favorite episodes. I think it'd be cool to see Lucella and the Orville crew maybe return to the planet at some point down the road. If we get a season 4, maybe going back to that planet and seeing, basically how bad it's gotten, because even in the Star Trek universe, you had World War III happen, and then people came out of that and then started working together. So, a lot of times in these societies, it's got to go really bad for it to get any better. So, it'd be interesting to see that planet again as it continues to devolve and and revisiting that at a later time. I like the Bortus Clyden stuff. It fit them back more into the comedic role that they've kind of filled for the first few seasons. Obviously, the stuff with Bortus and Clyden this season have tackled more heavier topics, so it hasn't really allowed them to be the comedic voice that they were in the first few seasons. So I like Bortus and Clyden a lot in this episode. The Claire and Isaac marriage works pretty well, and it's the smartest move to wrap up the season. Like, the idea of making the Claire Isaac marriage be the final episode was a good idea. I can't really think of a better way to do a character-focused episode than to do a Claire Isaac marriage. I think that was a really smart idea. I do wish we got a little bit more from Ed and Lamar this episode, because the Mercer really doesn't do a whole lot. Like, he's in a couple scenes kind of in the background, but there's really not a whole lot going on with him, and he is the captain. Maybe it would have been better if you actually had Captain Mercer giving Lysella the tour and explaining things to her instead of Grayson, because Grayson has gotten a lot of screen time this season. So I think maybe especially with being the last episode, I think it might have worked a little bit better if you actually had Captain Mercer giving the speech, but it could go either way. But again, with it being the last episode, I think having the captain be her guide and that kind of thing, I think probably would have worked a little bit better. That's just a matter of opinion, obviously, my opinion. I also wish there was a little bit more of Lamar, but Lamar's not really had a whole lot to do this season. Unfortunately, he didn't have any kind of solo outings. But the scenes with Lamar this season have been pretty good. He just hasn't got a whole lot to do, unfortunately. But for the most part, I do think all of the characters really get moments to shine in this episode, and it really does feel like a very much an ensemble episode. I have a poll up on my community tab for the best episodes for the second half of the season, and as of filming this, there's 64 votes. That's right, 64 votes as of filming this video, and the clear contenders here are Twice in a Lifetime with 25%, and Domino with a clear victory of 66%. Like, the other three episodes, it's not even close. And I definitely agree with this. I definitely think Twice in a Lifetime and Domino are the clear victors, not only for the second half of the season, but I think they're the clear victors for the entire season as a whole. But I'll get more into that when I do my episode review. That's right, stand by, because I'm going to be doing a episode ranking video. I've been working on this and trying to figure out where I place all the episodes as we've gone through the season. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. And again, if you are an Orville fan, I recommend rewatching the series when it does move over to Disney Plus on April 10th. I think, as I said, it's being moved over to gauge interest with a wider audience. I have had issues with Disney Plus as a platform. I've been debating making a video on the on the platform itself and the content that's been put out on the platform. I've been debating making a video on that for many, many months, and maybe it'll come out. I don't know. It's not a very positive video, I will say that. As I said, I've had some issues with the content that Disney Plus has put out. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a video on that. But I do plan on rewatching the Orville when it moves over to Disney Plus. And we'll continue doing a few Orville videos for at least the next month or two. I have several different videos planned, not only recapping some things and doing some rankings, but also maybe talking about a few episodes from season 1 and season 2. But really, I'm looking forward to doing the episode ranking. I've been looking forward to doing this episode ranking like all season when we were watching. Oh man, I can't wait to try and figure out where these place in order for me personally and do that video. I'm really excited about that. So I hope you guys stick around for that. Hopefully we get a Orville season 4. I think this show really fills a hole that Star Trek once filled for me. I don't like New Trek. I think it's been a complete disaster. To me, Star Trek's basically been dead since 2005. The Orville is the next thing. And the Orville is a testament to kind of where I think a lot of these things should be moving. I'm a longtime Star Trek fan, but if the current heads of that franchise cannot run it properly, then it just needs to go away. It just needs to go away, and we need to make room for new things. I think the Orville is far superior to anything that Star Trek's put out since 2005, and it's been great exploring this new world with people who have the spirit of Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek in mind when they're making it. And I think that it all works really well. And I really hope we do get a season 4. Hashbrown, Renew the Orville.
Put one of those hash browns at the end and then send it to the internet.
But what do you guys think? Did you think this episode was good? Do you think it was a good send-off for the season? Will you check out the Orville when it does move to Disney Plus, assuming you have Disney Plus? I don't recommend getting the platform just to watch the Orville on Disney Plus. And maybe one day we'll actually get a Blu-ray release, but with it being moved to Disney Plus, probably not. It would be nice to get the Orville on physical media. I would definitely buy all seasons on Blu-ray if they were released. But again, with it being to Disney Plus, you're never going to see it. Disney Plus, Disney is not interested in putting their original content out on physical media. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this episode below. Please stay tuned for some more Orville videos. I know this video is late, but hey, better late than never, right? And because I've been behind on some things, I have my videos have kind of stacked up, so I'm actually probably going to be putting out more content than what I normally do. A minimum of 2 videos a week, I think, at this point, but we'll wait and see. But really, I just want to thank everybody for checking out this video. Thank you for sticking around for the Orville videos. If you subscribe from the Orville videos, thank you so much. Thank you to all of my subscribers. And if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, or don't. I'm not a beggar. I'm DTrue64, and I'll always tell you the truth.
Hooray! Hooray for you! Hooray! Hooray! Hooray for you!